but also the complication, I guess I would say, is that everything is public.
Good morning and welcome to our commission meeting for June 3rd, 2025. I'm going to call our meeting to order and note for the record that we have a full quorum of members present. Yes, we do. Just silence your cell phone, avoid embarrassment, and stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, look for a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda. Anybody from the public that would like to comment on any item on our consent agenda? Commissioners, anybody want to remove anything from or comment on any item on the consent agenda? Look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Bleinberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on then to our regular business, we have a motion to authorize opioid settlement fund, interfund transfer, and transfer of budget authority. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning, Susan Beeman with the Auditor's Office. Just a little bit of history. Starting in 2022, Minnehaha County started receiving opioid settlement funds. To date, we've been accounting for this within the general fund. And as you probably recall, the commission has directed us to use those funds to help fund our commitment to fund the link. And that has what we have been doing to date. Recently, it's come to our attention from our auditor, the Department of Legislative Audit, that they're requesting that all counties now fund and account for this money within a separate special revenue fund, just to earmark it separate from the general fund. So therefore, based upon that guidance from DLA, what we would like to do is transfer the balance of the fund that was there at the end of 2024, which was $514,917.54 from the general fund over to that special revenue fund. And then starting in 2025, we will account for all transactions within that fund. And related to that, we're requesting authorization to move $300,000 of the link contribution expenditure budget over to that fund as well. So going forward, what you'll have is some of the link contribution in the opioid settlement fund, and then the remaining within the general fund.
All right. Public comment on this agenda item. Commission, questions, action.
I'd make a motion to approve the suggestions from Susan.
Second.
Motion by Benega, second by Heisey. Call the roll. Yes.
Benega.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Bleinberg.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Consider a motion to authorize the chair to sign an agreement between Minnehaha County and IMEG Consultants Corp. for final design and construction administration of the project MC 2405 Structure 50 149 140 bridge replacement. Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jacob Mars, Highway Department. Earlier this year, we were awarded a big grant for the replacement of a structure just southwest of Crooks on County Highway 130. This agreement with IMEG is funded 80% by the state of South Dakota, and it includes a little bit of final design to work on comments that the DOT had on our final plans, as well as bidding and inspection for the project.
That's it? Okay. Public comment on this agenda item. Commission, questions, action.
I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Jacob. Consider a motion to adopt a new position classifications and pay matrix effective September 27th, 2025. Carrie Deaver. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning, Carrie Deaver from Human Resources. A familiar topic to you, of course. We've been looking at preparing for the study for more than a year, and we hired McGrath Consulting in August of 2024 to conduct a compensation and classification study. As a reminder, this was a comprehensive study for full-time, part-time, seasonal elected officials, all of our positions, and it involved both pay and classification, meaning the tiering of our positions. This is important for us as we make sure that we're competitively placed so that we can recruit and retain qualified employees. What I want to stress, of course, is that this was a study about position pay, not about any one individual's pay or staffing needs, but about the salary ranges for our positions. Dr. McGrath was on site in late March to present the results of her study, and part of that was a key recommendation for changes for how we approach full-time compensation. She presented a new pay matrix and a new tiering or classification or pay grades for our positions. I'm happy to be in front of you today to take this key step to request your approval to adopt that pay matrix and classification for our non-union full-time employees only. Couple of key points with that. We're requesting that it be effective September 27th of 2025. The reason for that is it's a timely implementation. All that market data was gathered in 2025, and so it's real-time data for us. The other thing, honestly, is it helps us, it alleviates the administrative burden really of a year-end implementation study when we might have impact of step date resetting or anything else to deal with as we go through in the future. Also has a key benefit that would help us refine some of our payroll projections for the upcoming budget process. And probably most important of all is, you know, that we've had some difficulties and challenges attracting and retaining staff in some key positions. If we can implement the study sooner, we'd like to see some of the benefits from hopefully a little less turnover in some key areas. If approved, this is the first step in really preparing. There'll be a lot more to come. If it's adopted, what we'll look at is how are we going to make this implementation process effective? How are we going to look at transitioning individual people's pay onto the pay plan? So I just want to stress this is one key step in the process. There'll be a lot more planning to come. If you have any questions.
Public comment on this agenda item. Commission, we've had a lot of time and work into this already. Anybody have questions, comments for the record, motion, etc.?
Mr. Chair, I guess I would just ask Carrie to expand upon one of our issues is compression, especially at the lower wage range and starting pay and retention of people in those first few steps. So could you speak to, I guess, the couple things I think of to help with that? I think we've built in a structure where those steps are a little bit larger at the beginning, those first few, and then also the reason for implementation this fall, allowing for a January 1st further annual increase. Can you just talk about how those concepts achieve some of our strategic objectives?
Absolutely. And you might recall from, excuse me, our presentation, our annual presentation on HR earlier this year, that we've spent a lot of time looking at some key statistics with our staff, which I think we need to plan and be prepared for. We have that split where we have a large portion of our staff who have been newly hired. They've been hired within the first three years of their service, and quite frankly, even a large percentage of our staff have been hired over the past year. On the other side of it, we have a large portion of our staff who've maybe been here for quite a while. So, and I think it's around 22% of our employees have been with us for 16 or more years. And when you look at that, a large portion of those are also going to be eligible for retirement soon. So in other words, when you look at your organization, you've either got brand new employees or people who are on the precipice of looking at retirement. And if we're going to have a stable, well-informed workforce to serve our community, what we really need to make sure is we're retaining staff and they're developing that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of service. So part of the implementation plan is really looking at where are people going to fall out in pay, but also how do we get them to stay longer. So to your point, we've looked at the steps lists for those first few steps and have increased at least one more of them from 2.5% to 5%. The goal is to recognize that people's learning curve is higher during their first few years, and if we can get them to a more competitive rate of pay more quickly, hopefully we'll retain those staff. As far as looking at the pay matrix overall, again, that 9/27 implementation date will help us move more quickly on a project that we know is important if we're going to impact turnover. That would also allow us options for looking at how do we make sure that as people transition to maybe a pay range that's significantly higher, we're going to have a lot of people at step one in some cases. Not all pay ranges are moving up that much, though, so some people might be spread out more in their pay grade. And this was where it gets to one of the main points that I think is important for our employees to hear is this is an entirely new system, right? New position titles in some case, new pay grades, new classifications. So we've spent a lot of time looking at where are people going to fall potentially and how do we make sure it's implemented fairly. But some of the details of that implementation plan or options are still to come.
Thank you. I think this was just very well thought out, very well presented by our HR department, and appreciate your leadership through the process because, yeah, we've been asking questions about this and its budget implications for like going on a year, as you alluded to. But I just think this was very well executed and shows that we value our county employees. So appreciate achieving quite a few strategic objectives in one initiative.
And thank you. I appreciate the commission's support through this process. It's never easy when you look at something so comprehensive of impacting so many of our employees, but it's an important project for us as an entity.
I'd make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'd like to comment, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank you for all your work, Carrie, and we as a commission, we spent quite a lot of time crunching the numbers, looking at the situation. I just want to comment that I think passing this will maintain the long-term efficiency, competence, and stability of the county government, and by both bringing in talent and also retaining that talent. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you.
I can imagine this just sets the wheels in motion, and now the phone calls and all the employee questions and everything, everybody wondering what does it mean to me. So good luck with that. I know.
I'm grateful to work with many, many wonderful people, including Tom and Susan and my staff who have been instrumental in reviewing this information and coming up with options for the commission to consider. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be smooth, as Commissioner Kipley said. Well implemented, and I think it'll be great. So thank you for the work you've done. We have a motion and a second. I'll call the roll.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Carrie. We're moving on then. Consider a petition for compromise of lien, DPNO 57-936. Sandy, your first time at the plate with this.
First compromise.
Yep.
Sandy Kinder, Commission Assistant. The Commission Office has received a request to compromise DPNO 57936. The petitioner was in the process of purchasing a home when the title company noted a lien in the amount of $13,994.71. Of this amount, $1,828.90 was a Lincoln County filing that has been paid. The satisfaction was filed yesterday. This brings the balance due to Minnehaha County down to $12,165.81. The petitioner is currently employed. She has assets listed as $5,160, liabilities of $7,000, which is a car loan. She has biweekly payments of gross amount of $1,833. She's still attempting to purchase this house. Her closing date was delayed because of the lien. She's offering to pay $5,000 to compromise, which is 41%. Otherwise, she's also asking to release the lien in full with no payment. Petitioner is here if you have any questions.
All right. So, yeah, this is an opportunity then for the petitioner to address the commission. You can do it from your chair. You don't have to give your name, but if you would like to add anything to the story, what's happening and the why, now's your opportunity.
Yes, I wasn't aware that I had this lien on me, otherwise I would have been paying it for a couple years. I'm trying to buy a house.
Sandy, is the lien all for legal services?
It's all attorney services, some of which were provided to her and some to her minor children.
Okay. Okay. How far back does it go?
It goes back to 2005, and there have been some payments made on the account, $1,702.80.
When was the most recent lien?
Well, for the petitioner, we haven't had anything since '21. Everything that's current, '21 through '23, is for her minor children.
Yeah.
And can you clarify the distinction on there was some Minnehaha County portion, there was some Lincoln County portion?
Lincoln County had requested that we file their liens on their behalf, and she has paid their portion in full, and they have filed a satisfaction. I believe there was one attorney services and some human services.
Okay. Mr. Chair, our usual precedent in these matters is we look for 50%, I think, plus or minus some reasonable amount, and sounds like our friends in Lincoln County got 100%. So,
Correct.
and I just poke fun at my neighbors to the south, but so I think, but that shows good faith on the part of this lien holder here that I think with the 5,000, so 41%, I find that satisfactory, and I would support this.
I would second that, and I think we could send a note to Lincoln County and a thank you note, which should be received from them. I'm kidding.
Other comments, questions?
Just a quick question, Mr. Chair. Sandy, what is the typical process for billing lien holders? Is there regular bills that are sent or notices?
That would be a question for the auditor. The auditor's office handles lien filings.
We've got it right here.
Good morning, Leah Anderson, Auditor's Office. Wasn't expecting to speak today. Thanks, Cole. Commissioner Heisey. There aren't regular statements sent out. We have a lot of, when a person receives service, they do sign a document stating that they know that there's going to be a lien applied. So there is that. And then we don't send out regular statements. That would cost the county quite a bit of money. So there's a lot of lien holders. But just to answer that question. Okay.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
And for clarity's sake, there's also no interest ever applied to these liens.
No.
So the lien amount is for the actual amount. And 20 years later, it's still the same amount.
Yeah, and this is very common. If someone goes to purchase a home or make a transaction, they find out that they have a lien, and then it becomes something of importance, so.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask one question.
Please.
Could we maybe ask our counterparts in Lincoln County if they have the same policy, just to see how they ended up? I've heard recently that we're kind of unusual in the fact that we forgive part of our liens, and I'm wondering if other counties do a different process to communicate the debt to the lien holders.
As far as I've had communication with other counties, and they do not send out statements per se. We are the largest, and we would have the most impact on that. But Lincoln County, so in the past, recording liens in other counties occurred quite often. Like other counties would ask their neighboring counties to record a lien so that it's there in case it gets missed in their county. So that's why we had the Lincoln County one on our records. And then the payment of that, in this particular case, I believe that payment might have been made by a former spouse or something. But anyway, other counties do compromise liens as well. So just to answer that question,
Thank you.
yes.
I need Commissioner Benega.
Just curious if you know off the top of your head what our receivable balance is on the balance sheet. I think it's significant, if I remember right.
Susan might have a better idea of that.
We actually don't book a receivable per se on our balance sheet just because of the timing on this is so unpredictable. So we do have balances within our lien application that tracks all of those by lien holder, but we don't have a receivable. So when the payments do come in, they come in as revenue at that time.
But we have, at one point, we had spreadsheets that told us we had 25 million or something like that.
We certainly could pull that data for you if you are interested in seeing that number. I do not know that off the top of my head. Obviously, those balances obviously sit out there for many years. We have balances out there for deceased individuals, partly because if there's ever an estate or something that might come to them, that we obviously want to have that as a record that they did have a liability to the county. So if there ever is a chance for repayment, we want to be able to have that there. But we can pull that information and get that to you.
I guess my next question was, if the policy was ever to be changed and we were going to send statements out, what would we use as a source document to be able to collect those?
So, we do have the documentation with Register of Deeds when the liens were filed, and there's support for those. Obviously, if you go back, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, obviously the documentation will be different. And we would have to go through those different mechanisms to get there. But we should have that information within the Register of Deeds filing. Additionally, one of our key challenges is address. We don't have necessarily updated addresses for people. So if we were to all of a sudden send out thousands of statements, we would expect to receive many of them back. So.
If the person the lien is placed on is deceased, does that remove that lien? Does it disappear? Just out of curiosity. How do we know, like Commissioner Benega said, we could have $25, $50 million in liens. So this is a bigger picture, it has nothing to do with this individual DPNO, but how do we know what is a real potential number?
That is a great question. We don't necessarily know who's deceased or not deceased. So that's, again, another challenge we have. It's not synced up. The database isn't synced up to any records as far as death records or anything like that. We've not done any compromises for deceased individuals anytime in recent history. I'm looking at our Deputy State's Attorney over here, Chief Deputy State's Attorney, to see if he has any clarifications on that. But historically, in the recent years, we have not done any compromises for deceased individuals at this time.
If somebody passes on and they have assets and the estate could pay the lien, it'd be nice to know that we could attach that estate somehow. I don't know if that's possible or not, or allowed, but maybe a discussion during budget or at another time when we get more, as Mr. Greco says, clarity on the issue, more fidelity is the word I'm looking for. So, yeah. Okay.
One quick question, Susan. Does the county ever, this is a little bit of new territory for me, excuse me. Does the county ever send the outstanding liens to debt collections?
We have not, in my history, we have ever done that. There has been discussions, very high level, but should that be something pursued? And there's been some discussions at the state level with debt collections at the state level, but nothing that's been actionable to proceed with.
Okay. And do outstanding, this might not be a question but does it affect their credit score to have an outstanding lien, or is there any
I
effect?
do not have that answer. My assumption would be it doesn't. A lot of times it does come up in these type of transactions where something's been out there for a while and individuals forgot about them for whatever reason, and then they do a transaction with a lender, and then it shows up at that point. So this is not on this type of situation where they're trying to buy a house. This is not uncommon.
Yeah, I think it might be part of a broader discussion about how we can start to bring in more lien payments over the course of time. I mean, I don't know how accurate your number you had thrown out, Commissioner Benega, but 25 million is quite a significant sum. We could take some action maybe down the road, see what options we have on the table.
Okay.
I would just say that I do remember when we had a collection agency employed for property tax recoveries, if you will. And the number that I threw out there, I know is bigger than that, but I don't know what the right number is.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry.
Good.
I would just add that we provide this service statutorily required to provide these services, and the taxpayers carry, I think, a significant portion. The lien doesn't begin to cover the expense to the county. So the taxpayer is already covering those services, and then if we forgive liens or don't collect on them, the rest of the taxpayers are carrying that extra burden. But it seems to be a very common, and I'm not directing this at you, Auditor Anderson, but it seems to be a common statement that when someone comes to request this, that they were not aware. And just thinking about this case with the different dates, if we're claiming that we're informing them every time they request a service, maybe there's room to improve that process. And I would love to, if we could, hear from the state's attorney. If I remember correctly, or the deputy state's attorney, was there not legislation regarding this? Was there a bill about being able to take the funds from a deceased person's estate? Did that not happen?
It has to do with tax deed sales. So currently, if we have a sale of property where they have not paid their taxes, we now are able to recover for liens as of July 1st of this year. That was a bill that was passed.
Separate from liens, though.
Well, no, it's for liens, but so previously, if we had a tax deed sale, property sale, we could only collect for property tax related items and costs. And now we can recover liens from services such as legal services.
And we do that, or we will be doing that?
We
or-
can do that as of July 1st.
Okay, just thinking as we're,
Yes.
very heavily discussing the state's thoughts on how we budget, if they've given us that opportunity, it would be great to look at how we can make that work or take advantage of that.
One quick clarification, we did use a collection service before all of my staff's time. Lately, we've been going through liens quite heavily because we have random credit balances from prior compromises that were entered incorrectly. So we've been working on a lot of lien-related items recently. The other difficulty in looking at an actual balance of liens is when we record a lien, if there's a husband, wife, and say it's for minor kids, that lien gets recorded on both parents. And so you're going to have a balance sitting there for two people, but it's the same lien. So you can't just take your balances off of the software that we use to record those liens and say this is what the total is, because a lot of those are duplicated depending on the people involved in the situation.
Okay, so to that point, if we remove this lien, this compromise for this individual, does a balance stay on the other spouse or the other individual?
No, when the lien is compromised, the balance goes away.
Okay, so it's not that if there's two individuals, parents and the lien is for their minor children, we can't transfer the balance to the, I thought we had done that in the past. Yeah. Yeah.
As far as I know, once the compromise is made, then the lien is compromised and we don't collect on it any longer.
I'm pretty confident that Commissioner Karski is right, because we've had many conversations where the divorce decree has indicated that we were giving them, one of the spouses, the ability to settle it, and then they move forward, and the other one was supposed to be remaining on the person that was still, quote, outstanding in that lien. And I know we did that many times.
That is one of the options on the next page down, that if Sandy wants to scroll to the form, I'm guessing she helped fill out here.
So I didn't.
But that's, if that's not a relevant option to this case, I just know that that's an option on the form on the next page on our screen.
It
Trish,
is.
if somebody can scroll down. Okay, fair enough. We can't, but in our packet, we have different options. But if that wasn't a relevant option, Sandy, then I think the proposal we have before us is to compromise this lien in full upon payment of $5,000.
Correct. She, the two items that are selected are what she checked on the petition.
Okay. That would be my motion in this case, is to compromise and release the lien in full upon payment of $5,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, so the balance would not go over to the other individual, the other parent. That's our intent of your motion.
Correct. That's how it was presented to us.
Okay. Okay. Any other discussion? So we have a motion for a payment of $5,000 to compromise the lien in full.
Can I ask a question
Please.
to Eric? We're petitioning to compromise 57936. If this resolution is approved, it's specific to that number. So if these other juvenile liens were filed with the father, we wouldn't apply the same resolution to his account. So in all reality, they would stay with the father.
Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Eric Bogus, State Attorney's Office. That's correct, the way Sandy recited that. So it's specific to this numerical lien.
Okay. So there may still be a lien on the father for a different case number. Okay. 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 We haven't done one of these in a while, so it's good practice for us, and a lot of good questions from Commissioner Heisey that we all had at one time, and until you've been through one, it's new again. So we have a motion and a second. I'm going to have you call the roll, please.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, you can work with Sandy. She'll explain what's going on and help you out. You bet. Thank you. All right, we are now at the opportunity for public comment. If anybody would like to address the commission, you have 5 minutes on any non-agenda item.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Rick Bonander, Valley Springs. And the reason that I'm here today is to talk about the penitentiary, which has made a lot of news lately. And the Lieutenant Governor has sent a letter out, and one of those letters went to this body, and asking for your input on the penitentiary issue. And the citizens would like to know what the Commissioner is thinking as well on this issue. So what I'm asking for is to ask that you, on your next agenda meeting, put this on your agenda, talk about it and give some input, and then respond back to the Lieutenant Governor, because I know it's for the 30th of May, but better late than never. So thank you.
Thank you. And the letter you're talking about, sir, never did make it to us. So
That's
we just
amazing.
found out about it yesterday.
Well,
So that's why we didn't drop the ball. There was some glitch somewhere, so I appreciate your comments. And also, if you haven't signed in, make sure.
I did.
Okay, thank you.
I've done this enough, so I got
Okay,
you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. All right. Any other public comment? All right. Moving on then to commission liaison reports.
I would just say that we had a JJC meeting last Wednesday, and things are going along fairly well on schedule and still under budget at this point. So things are positive, and look forward to the completion of phase one, I believe, sometime this fall.
Okay. Quiet week, all righty. Non-action commission discussion. All right, then. We do have an executive session scheduled, so I'd look for a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of South Dakota Codified Law 125(2), 1, 4, and 6.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.